This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FI Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business and politics that impact you, the viewer. Today, our guest is Delegate John Bell. Thanks a lot, John, for coming. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about your background and also what's going on in the legislative sessions and just sort of update to our constituency, your constituency, and the viewer.
Wonderful. I'm a retired Air Force officer. I served for almost 26 years.
Okay.
And served all around the world. I was a finance officer, so my job was managing money, balancing budgets, finding efficiencies. I've served in Iraq, Afghanistan.
Well, thank you for your service. Wonderful.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I loved it. My wife is retired Air Force, and I have 5 children. 3 of them have actually served in the Air Force as well.
Wonderful. And they are still active?
No one is in at the moment. Everyone has served and kind of gone on to do other things. I have a niece and a nephew, though, that are serving right now. So,
in Iraq?
No, one is in actually Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, and the other one is out in Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico.
Sure.
So they continue to serve today. What I'm really involved with today is I'm very proud to represent the 87th District of the House of Delegates.
Where is that? 87?
It's in Loudoun County and a little bit of Prince William. We're right around the Dulles Airport area.
Sure.
So it's a very high growth area, and a lot of our issues are related to transportation, education, things that really affect families, growing families in an area where we have to commute back and forth frequently. This legislative session, we were able to work on quite a few different things.
So you did work across the aisle also?
Absolutely.
Are you Democrat or Republican?
I'm a Democrat, and I actually was very involved in a pretty landmark 15 bills on opioids.
Sure. Just tell a little bit about audience. What is the disease that you should just talk about it?
Opioid addiction is really a crisis right now in Virginia and across the United States. And we've actually, over the past 15 years, aggressively treated pain. And as a result, many of the synthetic drugs today, opioids, are highly addictive. If people take those drugs for even a week, they have a chance of becoming addicted for the long term. So it's resulted in many people being addicted. This has affected my family. My son has suffered from opioid addiction and is currently in recovery.
So you have a real-time, you have personal experience.
I absolutely do. We didn't know that my son had this problem. He was addicted for almost 7 years. He was in a car accident, injured his neck, and received pain medication.
That led him to get to this medication.
Absolutely.
So what kind of things have been accomplished in this session, and what did the governor do to veto some of these bills?
Well, the opioids, as I said, was a big thing, and I worked actually with several Republican delegates to get this done. I worked with Delegate O'Bannon, John O'Bannon, who's a physician, and also Todd Pillion, who is a dentist. Sure. And they have both dealt with addiction quite a bit. Working with doctors around Virginia, the Medical Society of Virginia, and pharmacists, we were able to pass 15 different bills. And really, we tried to attack the opioid crisis from all angles. One of the things we did was restrict the amount of prescription drugs that can be given out at an emergency room. So, for instance, my son, when he had his car accident, he received 90 days of prescription, which was way too much. He was addicted before that was done. Now it's only going to be 14. We also are making sure that we're moving towards making sure all opioid prescriptions are done electronically, so then people can't get paper prescriptions and go to multiple providers and prescription shop. We're also doing a number of things to help with children who are born addicted to these drugs, which is a crisis, and also putting money into the naloxone save shot. When someone overdoses, making sure they have this shot to reverse the overdose. It's really important that they get this shot right away. Minutes are really the difference between life and death. And many parts of Virginia didn't have the funding to do this without our help. So we approved funding to do that.
So the question is that some of the things could be taken care of the Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Care Act. As you know, your opponent, in this case the Republican and the party and the White House and all those things, trying to repeal it for the last 7 years, and they have not been able to do that. Why are they doing this thing, and what is the message to the audience? Is that is a wrong thing to do? You can repair them, and you can reform them, you can make it better, but you just do not want to get rid of that. Is that your philosophy also?
It is. I mean, the Affordable Care Act, I agree it's not perfect. Frankly, the area I would like to see improved is the amount of money spent on administrative costs.
Yes.
Because right now we're spending over 20% on administrative costs. Most other countries like Japan or Germany spend 5% or less. But none of the effort went into that. Unfortunately, the effort that the plan that President Trump put forward really kills the whole program.
Why are they doing something like that? Do they understand the consequences? The people, with 35 million people will be out of their health care. Why are they doing that? And they said, this is what they said during their campaign. Is that the campaign promises, which is something that will hurt and millions of people in this country?
You know, I believe that many people have heard wrong information. We want alternative facts, whatever you want to call it, but there's been a great deal of
alternative facts. That's a new one you just told me. I think that's what Kellyanne Conway said, right?
She said that, but I believe that there's been a great deal of misinformation about what the Affordable Care Act is.
So the Democrats didn't do a good job in doing a sales pitch in terms of telling the advantages of the Affordable Care Act.
I think we could have done a better job. I agree. And some of the things that I think that the Affordable Care Act does a very good job at is, first off, getting health care out of emergency rooms. Right now,
medical conditions.
Absolutely.
Kids under 26 can get health care.
Right now, if you don't have insurance, the only place you can go for health care is the emergency room. Yeah. And so as a fact, diseases aren't caught early, they're caught when they're severe.
It's not a preventive medication.
Right, and then the emergency rooms, which are the most expensive place to get care, are clogged up with non-emergencies. So it makes it more difficult when true emergencies go there. I think these are the benefits of the Affordable Care Act that were not, talked about. And as it turns out, when they tried to put in Trump care, when the Republicans tried to do that, people were upset because they like the aspects of the Affordable Care Act, which makes sure that you cannot be denied insurance because of a pre-existing condition. It makes sure if you're under 26, you can stay on your parents' policy. These are things that are very popular, and they make sense. So I think these are the things of the Affordable Care Act that are good, but not ensuring. I believe it should be fixed.
Yeah, it could be fixed.
I would love to see.
But you do not want to repeal it and give them, but they don't have alternative plans.
Obviously, I think if we're truthful about this, the Republicans did not have an alternate plan because they talked about it for 8 years.
But that's what they're saying. So people are listening to them.
Yeah.
How do you counter-argue this thing that this is they're accomplished as part of the Trump administration in this case?
Well, I think if we look at their plan, it shows when President Trump himself said this is easy, and then he had to later say
it's very complicated.
Yeah, he found out it wasn't so easy.
He said this week we're going to pass it.
Yeah. Well, it appears that the Congress is going to get out without passing anything.
Of course, they got to go to.
And I seriously hope they don't pass it, because a plan that would actually uninsure 20+ million people, I believe, is not only morally wrong but physically wrong. In Virginia, we have 400,000 people who have been denied care because of us not expanding Medicaid, which I think we should have done. The other thing is we've really lost a great deal of our tax dollars. We're going to pay the same federal tax dollars whether we expand Medicaid or not. But by not doing it, we've already lost over $10 billion of our money.
So the Democrats have to have a platform, which is a unified platform, in order for them to counter-argue the fact, so people get more smarter and go to the town hall meeting and tell them this is the wrong thing to do.
I agree. I believe when something's wrong, we should correct it. And I agree, we should do a better job of talking about the benefits of this.
And it's not a job buster, as Mr. McConnell, the majority leader, said, correct? It hasn't been a job buster so far.
It has not. I believe it's going to be a job buster if you uninsure 20 million people. I think that's going to be a tremendous wrong. And also, many of the people who are covered by this are the people who are in the most need, our most vulnerable citizens. And I don't believe that makes sense for us. And again, for our hospitals, we could do so many things better. For instance, my son, when he was young, he's 24 now, but when he was young, he had ear infections frequently. And our insurance would not cover it if we went to an urgent care, which we could be seen quickly and it was fairly cheap. If we went to an emergency room, it was covered, even though it cost more money. So our incentive was to go to the more expensive option. We need to change that to where it makes sense for people. These are the common sense things we can do, but unfortunately...
Make it better.
Make it better. I believe
it more cost effective.
If we want to make it simple, both parties need to put America first and really come together to do the right thing.
Isn't there Mr. Trump campaign for America first?
He said that, but he hasn't. Really, he's put political interest first, because uninsuring people...
personal interest?
I agree with you on that. Without him
that's what the media says. I don't really have any input in this process.
I believe what he should do is really put out his taxes, because he's the first person.
So why do you think the Republicans said no? The Democrats put together a bill, and they said no. The Republicans shut it down.
I believe that
So they're accomplice.
they are definitely accomplices. I mean, in Virginia, I have a disclosure of my economic interest. I disclose everything I'm invested
so
in.
do I, so-
And without disclosing that, how do we know what his interests
There
are?
must be something there that he's hiding. He probably has not paid, just my speculation, I don't really know, probably paid taxes for 20 years.
The point is, we speculate because we just don't know.
Right.
And I believe American people deserve to know that.
Deserves to know.
I mean, this is a bar that has been long adhered to by both
But
Democrats and
obviously
Republicans.
it didn't really matter to the American public. They still voted for this man.
They voted for him, and I actually think we should take, as Democrats, a hard look at why they did, because
And especially those people who voted for Obama, they switched it to him rather than to Hillary Clinton in 2016 election.
Some people-
And then the hacking of the Russians and the trying to mingle with our democracy and the Constitution also.
yeah, I mean, I believe that we should take a hard look at the Democratic message, because I think many people actually just didn't vote, because some of the areas like Wisconsin, that was what happened. People who voted for Obama just didn't show up.
And Michigan.
And Michigan as well. I mean, I think it was a mistake not to campaign there. When you ignore people, they feel it. But I also believe, as far as you mentioned Russia, I mean, if I were President Trump, I would demand an independent investigation to clear my name.
Well, but the fact of the matter is, you think it's all fake news.
Well, there's you can say fake news, but there's many things that are concerning.
Well, the problem is also, as you can see, John, is that the Democrats do not have any power either in the House or the Senate or the White House. So they cannot put the bills there, and therefore they cannot have any. They have no say for independent investigation, which is what it should be happening.
Well, I think what will happen if we keep on this path where troubling disclosures keep coming up, more Republicans like John McCain, Lindsey Graham will
But
cross
John
over and
McCain still
demand it.
votes. Oh, he just voted for the nuclear option.
He voted for the
he
he
voices-
voted for the nuclear option, but he has called for an independent investigation. And
but nobody's listening to him.
they aren't yet. But if this
Okay.
continues, I think they
You do see a
will.
brighter horizon. I want to shift some gear a little bit talk about the local things. Traffic is the biggest problem in Northern Virginia, and gun control is another problem. So let's talk about it. What's your thoughts on it, and how is it hurting your constituency, the constituency that you represent?
Yeah, transportation's a big issue. You know, we are investing quite a bit. The 2013 transportation bill passed in Virginia, which I was in favor of, I think gave us the transportation dollars we need to make many necessary improvements. But we need to do much more beyond that. I've actually done a bill the last 2 years in a row. It hasn't passed yet, but I'm still working on it. It's a heavy lift. It's to do something called practical design. And it really would design...
Practical design. What
Practical
does that mean?
design. It means basically making engineers engineer. If we are going to build a bridge, rebuild a bridge, we reuse everything we can. If the pylons are still good, we reuse them. If we redo a road and the guardrails are still good, we reuse them. Currently, we take them down and start from scratch. Missouri did this first. In 5 years, they saved $1 billion, and now 9 other states have done it. If we do that in Virginia, we can save money and do more projects. It'll make a big difference. Another thing I did, which is related to that as well, I did a bill this year, which actually made it into the Virginia budget to require us to have LED lights on our highways.
And that will save a lot of energy.
It will. Saves 50% of the energy. They last 10 years versus 2 years, and it creates jobs. We have 3 LED companies in Virginia, and we can purchase those bulbs from versus buying them from China.
That's exactly. What about the clean energy? What do you tell the coal mining people that you don't have a job? And Mr. Trump made it pitch that we'll bring all those jobs back from China and from all these places, and we're going to make sure that you have a job and the coal mining industry will have a job. Obviously, that industry is fading, and that industry is a polluter. A lot of people say that. So we have to train them. What's the message from you to them is all those people who's hurting?
Well, first I'll say I'm going to be honest about my message. If they like it, they like it, but it's going to be the truth. And the truth is the coal industry is continuing to go down, and it will, because it's a dirty industry and it's expensive. If we look at
we
this,
have to retrain those people in the clean energy and create jobs.
we absolutely do. I believe there's a job for them in wind, in solar. There's
Yes.
also in
And green
biofuel.
energy, yes.
And then there's also a job in minerals. There's many valuable minerals in Virginia that they can use the same skills they use for coal for those minerals, but we're not looking into those areas. If we just do...
And how does the Commonwealth of Virginia helps them to find those jobs and retrain them?
Well, I think we're doing quite a bit on there.
Okay.
Recently, I was involved with the governor to an area down just south of Richmond, where we're trying to get a bio company who actually wants to come there and make these bricks from trees and other natural waste.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, these are things we can create the jobs for, but I think we can't keep throwing good money after bad. And we also need to be honest with people that those jobs are going to continue to go away, so we need to reposition them for jobs of the future, which we can develop jobs in those areas. I think that's the way to go. The governor's brought in somewhere north of $15 billion, and he's created over 160,000 jobs in Virginia. It's unprecedented amount of investment. We need to continue on that track. And in order to do that, we also need to make sure that we're fighting any kind of discriminatory bills, which I have and will continue to do so. Virginia needs to be open for business for everyone, and we need to let everyone know, regardless of their religion, their skin color, or their sexual preference, that we want them here in Virginia.
Sure.
And that they're
welcome here.
Absolutely. I also think we need to make sure that we fight. You mentioned guns. I'm a veteran.
Fire safety.
Yeah, we need to make sure that it's a safe place to live. This is something that I've campaigned on. I'm a military veteran. I've carried a firearm in combat zones. I own a firearm. But I believe we need to focus on safety. We need to make sure that if you have a concealed carry permit, that you're required to have in-person training, not video or online the way it is today. If you have a holster that's not fitted properly, you can't tell from online training.
As I understand, there's no database for the people who have all these firearms in their possessions.
Well,
Nobody knows.
There actually is a couple of different databases for certain types of firearms.
Certain types, but not for machine guns simply.
No, if you go to a gun show today and you decline a background check, which is voluntary from a non-dealer, if you go to a dealer, those are required. But if it's a non-dealer, it would be voluntary, and they're there. State troopers are there now. That's a good bill we passed last year. But you can decline it. And if you decline it, then people could buy firearms. And unfortunately, what's happened is criminal elements from New York and New Jersey are coming to Virginia, and they're buying firearms here. And a good deal of the firearms that are confiscated in crime in New York and New Jersey, unfortunately, come from Virginia. So that's not something we want to be known for.
I wouldn't think so.
And also, I don't think we need military weapons in the civilian population.
We don't really need people to have machine guns.
No, we don't. We also don't need. I don't want my neighbor to have a grenade launcher or a flamethrower.
Why? What's the purpose of this stuff?
I don't believe there is one. I mean, I think those are military weapons, and they should only be in the military. And I think that, this is common sense stuff, and these are the kind of things I'm continue to fight for.
Well, let's talk about a little bit the budget. As you know, there's a lot of things have been slashed in the budget. And they want to increase the budget for 15% for the Pentagon. And as you know, Virginia is a place for the federal government. There's millions of jobs and thousands of jobs. How are you ready for that, and what you going to do to fight for it?
Well, there's a few things I'll mention. The governor, and I've been very supportive of his efforts to diversify the Virginia economy.
Yeah, that's very important.
And
it has been diversified, as I understand.
It has been. We need to continue to invest. Like we have right now 30,000 cybersecurity jobs that are open in Virginia. These are high-paying, good jobs. So we need to work harder with our local community colleges and our universities to make sure we're preparing students and we're educating them that there are jobs in this area and you can have a good life with those jobs. I think we need to do a better job of that. We also, again, need to invest. If we want cybersecurity companies to continue to come here, we have to make this a good choice for them and compete with the surrounding states. I did a bill this year which would increase the angel tax credit because we need investors capital will put the money in the best place. And we need to make sure Virginia is that best place. So I think that is critically important as well. The other thing is we need to fight President Trump's budget because the budget he put forth is going to be very bad for us. In Northern Virginia, we're going to lose 10,000 jobs. That's going to hurt us.
Is it 10,000 jobs?
10,000 jobs. And some of the estimates show that home prices will drop almost 2% if that happens. It would be very bad for us. The after-school program cuts that he would make in my district is going to cost us millions of dollars, hurt many children in at-risk areas. And then another one, which I think is critical for not just now but the future, is he's proposing to cut Chesapeake Bay cleanup.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, from $73 million to zero. Yeah. That would undo 20 years of progress there. And it would also hurt many jobs in that area.
A lot of people in media, I'm not here to personally attack Trump or anybody else. The media people say just to keep his wife at the Trump hotel costs $832 million, political. And $832 million can be spent for some of these things that he cut for PBS which is only $400 million. National Humanity, Forest and Education of Arts. Art nourishes the roots of our culture. And the U.S. Institute of Peace, which promotes the peace. Woodrow Wilson Center, which does a lot of things. Why is he doing what he's doing, and why is Republican Party is a part of this? They're partnering with him. They become a surrogate. In some cases, people say that. I don't have my own personal opinion on this. Surrogate of the White House.
Well, I mean, I think it's unfortunate with that. President Trump, as a candidate, criticized President Obama for golfing, and he didn't take trips every week into his own resorts.
And that costs something like $5 million every time he goes there.
Very expensive.
And I thought he's a very rich man, and he should be paying for his own. About the kids who go to all over the world and making a business deal, all his 3 kids. And what have we done? And also it costs millions and millions of dollars to the taxpayer. Why?
I share your concerns. I mean, to me,
it's not my concern. The concern of probably a lot of people.
They're my concerns.
They're our concerns.
I believe that these are major ethical issues that, frankly, as president, you should disclose your business holdings, and you should always be above reproach. And I am troubled as well by the amount of money for security in New York City and the travel to resorts, because if we just if the president would make a sacrifice and eliminate a few of these trips to resorts on weekends, we could do Chesapeake Bay cleanup, and we could feed children after school. These are critical programs, and I believe in the motto I had in the Air Force: integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. And when you're going to resorts every weekend and you're wasting the taxpayers' dollars, that is not service before self.
So we have to step up, speak and speak out. As you know, there are some. The Senate is mostly they're Democrat. They're going to fight. But what about some of the House in the House Republican in Virginia? So do you go tell them that that they are part of these problems, and this is not good for America? It's not good for the state of Virginia. You're not going to be elected next time around. I
tell them every chance I get, okay. and I will. That's a good point. We need to have people go vote, because if you don't like what's happening today, vote in the state legislature elections, vote in the congressional elections, because that's what will make a difference.
That will make a difference.
If you don't like what's happening today, do something about it.
I agree.
And stand up and go vote.
Thank you very much, John,
for
coming. And this is Frank Islam wishing you a great week, and thank you for watching.